Now, that's obviously a bit of a leading stinger there. Superman sucks. These are all just test screens. Okay, these are subjective. It it's not. It's just people's interpretation of the movie. It might be bad. It might be good. Uh, Whenever I get test screening leaks, I try to work with the same people over and over and over again, because then I understand their taste in films, and so you know, and then when the film comes out, I can watch it and I get a good gauge. So when you're just reading about test screenings, lots of people always go, "Yeah, but some people have said they're good, and some people have said it's bad. So this is clearly just bogus." No, dumb shit. Obviously, that's the subjective nature of film. Some people will think it's good, and some people will think it's bad. That's why it's really important to understand and go back to a source, whether it be a YouTuber that has a source that that understands what um, their sort of test screening leaker, their taste in films is, and they can then um, sort of convey that across in an appropriate manner. But basically, there has been test screenings. This has now resulted in Superman going for reshoots, which is something that James Gunn was adamant against. He said he wasn't going to do it. So that is interesting. It's not like James Gunn's ever lied before, obviously. But let's just take a look. So the conversation surrounding James Gunn's Superman continues to be a roller coaster, as fresh rumors suggest the film may not be shaping up as well as Warner Brothers Discovery and DC Studios had hoped. A recent report from insider Jeff Snyder has reignited concerns, hinting that the film's internal reception after several test screenings remain troubling. Jeff Snyder, an industry insider, initially shared positive feedback in his newsletter regarding Superman's progress. However, shortly after publishing, he was contacted by a trusted source who contradicted that narrative, warning that the film is still struggling. During an episode of the Hot Mic podcast, Snyder revealed, "I got a call from my best source after that newsletter. Great newsletter tonight. You got one thing wrong, and that's about Superman, which I continue to hear is terrible." So, though he stopped short of providing detailed specifics, Snyder suggested he has additional information he's not yet willing to disclose. He also hinted at skepticism regarding James Gunn's transparency about the film's state, pointing to previous instances where Gunn dismissed industry leaks, such as the recent Clayface rumors. Yeah, true. So, regardless of the film's actual quality, Warner Brothers Discovery and DC Studios are making moves to ensure it succeeds, which is true. According to the Wrap, the company's enlisted, but this also indicates that they might be worried about it, just as an FYI. So this is quite unusual. Warner Brothers Discovery has enlisted an external marketing consultant, veteran Ricky Strauss, to consult on the film's promotional strategy. So Strauss worked with Apple TV, Marvel, Star Wars, has an extensive background in shaping high-profile campaigns. His resume includes titles like Moana, Frozen, The Jungle Book, Cinderella, as well as involvement in An Inconvenient Truth and Waiting for Superman. The latter being an ironically titled documentary critiquing America's education system. So I find that weird that they're like, well, we need to get someone to market it for us. We should have a marketing department for that at Warner Brothers, but all right, it's a bit weird. To me, it's weird. Seems that they don't really know what they just don't know how to market the film, basically, which is just odd. And that's about it, really. Just again, the fact that they're going for reshoots. Gunn's downplayed significance of reshoots, even though he said that it wasn't going to do any. But he admitted they've done screenings. So I don't really have much else to say on this. It's an interesting turn of events. What do you guys think?
I think external marketing means that they are screwed. They need somebody that's creative of trying to market this film because word of mouth could kill it. I think there's a lot of things out there that could be improved on. Obviously, they have to make improvements because they're going back for reshoots. And if this is the situation that we find ourselves in the very first movie, and it's not the very best, this points to negative time for Gunn with DC, and maybe this also explains why they cut back so many of those projects that were announced at the very beginning. So
That's
none of
true.
none of this points to a positive. I don't know, Bo. What do you think, bud?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't used to do reshoots very often, even just a few years ago. It was not exactly unheard of, but it was relatively rare. And if you go back to sort of the golden age of cinema, it wasn't really a thing, particularly, because you would have a professional writers. You would have someone that has written a coherent and good screenplay. And so the window of opportunity to do certainly significant reshoots after you've bloody basically shot the thing, we live in they're doing it differently now, and it's a poorer way of doing it, obviously, and they're second guessing themselves endlessly. Like if I'd written a screenplay and then they made the film, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on it, made it, then put it in front of a small audience, like what is it, a few dozen or a few hundred hand-picked people, and they're like, oh no, we don't like it, and the studio basically shit their pants and say, oh, rewrite it, reshoots, significant rewrites and reshoots. I'd be like, no, I'm out then, forget it. No, I wrote you a thing. It was a complete story with a beginning, middle, and end with the characters I had created, and that's it. Take it or leave it. Don't sort of shit your pants just because a handful of people didn't like it. It is what it is. It is what it is. So they're just not. They're just the whole process now seems crazy to me. It's like they're hard baking in that it's going to be crap. Why do that? Why not just write something good in the first place, make it, shoot it, and that's it. And if it does flop on its own merits, well, so be it. You win some, you lose some. But if you do it right in the first place, if you write something good in the first place, it should rarely flop. Yeah. Anyway, that's my take on
it. You have seen movies recently, right? Because failure is built into them right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was
but
just
if
curious.
You look at something like if you look at something like June, or Dune 1 and 2, they were quite good. I really quite like them, and they're relatively close to the original Frank Herbert novel, the first Dune novel. Sorry, I say June because I'm English. But the first June novel, and so obviously that's a masterpiece of storytelling. It's one of the greatest sci-fi novels ever penned. And so they kept faithful to that, pretty damn close, to be fair. And like it or not, they're good films. They're pretty decent films. The pacing is very good. The characters are engaging. On and on. So this, I mean, I'd be so embarrassed if I was part of a writing team or I was the screenwriter where they had to do significant rewrites and reshoots after they'd shot it. You failed then at your job of writing a good movie.
I thought that's fair. But that's indicative of writers in general these days, isn't it? They're bloody.
It should never be done by committee. The idea that you've got a writer's room and that you're throwing around ideas between half a dozen or 24 people, whatever it is, whatever nonsense it is. No. It should be one person, maybe two, if they're like a symbiotic creation.
They're a team, a writing team. Yeah.
Yeah, writing team. Yeah. It should be one person's vision, really.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, again, it's old-fashioned now. That must sound old-fashioned.
I don't think. Well, I guess it does to some people, but to me, that just sounds like common sense. But that's kind of they were trying to bring some of that back in. The WGA strike caused some of that to happen. It was part of what they were. It was part of their new deal that they got with the studios. That if you had one writer, you could only have one writer if they were also the showrunner, basically, or something like that, which makes sense. But the fact that wasn't the case before, like last year, is dumb as hell. That's the unions just being an absolute detriment to creativity, quite frankly. So fun. But who knows? We'll see how this goes. This movie. Yeah, we'll see. I don't have a lot of faith in it, a lot of confidence. It's not. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like there's apathy for superheroes in general now as well. So I don't think that helps. Anything else you guys have to say? Or shall we move on?
I've never really been a particular fan of Superman anyway. He always seemed smarmy, always seemed smug. This idea that he's impervious to things. Like, well, what's that then? I'm not. What do you want me to do with that? Like, yeah, you can shoot him in the eyeball with a bullet, and the bullet flattens out. Oh, right, okay. I don't know.
Well, I think characters are interesting when they have issues. They go through arcs, right? Like Superman, his arcs were not so obvious and not so great. Too powerful, OP, overpowered. All right, cool. Let's move on from this. So we got